You're at a dinner table. Everyone around you lights up. Someone scores, the room erupts, chairs scrape back, someone spills their drink, and nobody minds. You watch it happen. Not from boredom, not from superiority, just from a quiet distance, like you're watching a film you weren't given the subtitles for. And in that moment, without anyone saying a word, you feel slightly outside the room. The interesting part is what that distance actually says about you. Most people assume that not caring about football, or sport in general, is just a preference, like preferring coffee over tea, but it isn't. It points to something deeper about how your mind works, about the specific way you decide what's worth your attention and what isn't. And once you understand that mechanism, a lot of other things about yourself start making sense too. Psychologist Tory Higgins identified something called regulatory focus theory, which, stripped of all the academic language, simply means that people are wired in one of two fundamental directions. Some people are motivated primarily by belonging, by staying in step with the group, by not being left out of what everyone else is doing. Others are motivated primarily by meaning. They need to understand why something matters to them personally before they can feel genuine interest in it. Football culture, the collective ritual of it, the inherited tribal loyalty, the feeling that caring is just what you do, tends to be naturally magnetic for the first group. For the second group, it never quite lands. Not because they lack something, but because their system runs on a different fuel, like trying to charge a device with the wrong cable. The device isn't broken, the cable just doesn't fit. If you're in that second group, you've probably noticed this pattern show up everywhere, not just in football. There are films everyone loves that leave you flat. There are songs the whole room sings along to that you find yourself just watching. There are conversations that pull everyone in and you stay at the edge, pleasant but not quite present. People sometimes read this as aloofness. What they're actually seeing is a mind that hasn't found its frequency yet, and here is where it gets more personal. Because here is what that pattern actually costs you, and most people never say this out loud. Psychologist Elaine Ahrens spent decades studying what she called the highly sensitive person, a trait found in roughly 15 to 20% of the population, characterized not by weakness or fragility, but by a nervous system that processes stimulation more deeply than average. People with this trait tend to notice more, feel more, and form attachments to things more slowly, but also more completely. They don't get swept up in what the crowd is doing because their internal experience is already loud enough without adding outside noise. The same depth of processing that makes them miss football is the same depth that makes them unusually perceptive in one-on-one conversations, in creative work, in any situation that rewards careful attention over quick reaction. Here is the paradox, though. The thing that makes you seem less engaged in group settings is actually a sign of higher engagement in general, just on your own terms, in your own time. Like a camera that takes longer to focus but produces sharper detail. The crowd moves fast, you move differently. But here's something worth saying honestly. This trait isn't a superpower with no cost. The same mind that needs its own reason to care can sometimes resist things for too long. It can turn what is genuinely just stubbornness into a story about depth. It can mistake discomfort with crowds for something more meaningful than it actually is. Not every preference is profound, and knowing that matters. Still, the core of it is real. And here's what's actually interesting. Research consistently shows that people who don't rely on shared rituals for their sense of belonging tend to develop a much more specific, self-generated sense of identity. They know what they actually think, not just what the room thinks. They form fewer attachments but often stronger ones. They're harder to include in the casual social fabric, and also harder to shake when something genuinely matters to them. You might be sitting here recognizing this in yourself, the quiet distance, the way meaning has to come from inside before it can come from outside. That's real. And it makes sense. And if none of this sounds like you, if you love football and still felt something in this video, then what you're probably noticing is someone else. Someone who has always felt slightly one step away from the room. You know them. They're worth understanding. The world tends to call this indifference, a lack of passion, being hard to reach. But what it actually is a mind that does not outsource its sense of meaning to whoever happens to be in the room. That is not a flaw. That is a form of quiet integrity most people spend years trying to build. Subscribe if this explains something you never had words for.